Good afternoon, welcome. You are tuned into the Labor Forum here at WRFG 89.3 FM. My name is Diane Mathowitz, and I'm a retired auto worker, co-host of this program, along with Paul McLennan, who is with the Transit Workers Union. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Diane.
All right, so it rained all yesterday, but gorgeous today, and we have a great show for everyone today. In the studio, we have three wacky members of the local Stagehands Workers Union, and we're going to be talking to them in a minute, but we'll go ahead and do our first two segments that we've established here on the Labor Forum. This is the third week, the final week of the Spring Pledge Drive here at WRFG. We count so much on you, our listeners, to support the station financially, and of course all the other ways you can by coming in and helping out. We have all kinds of jobs to do around here because we're an all-volunteer station. I want to give a special shout out again to Gary Washington last week, who started this program in 1986, who donated on air last week, and to Verdalia Turner from the Teachers Union, Georgia Federation of Teachers, who gave us a marvelous $500 donation, which we super appreciate. And we sort of want to say to everybody else, we know that times are tough and times are hard here at the station too, but every dollar, every $5, every $20 is a super help to us. So please do call in anytime, 404-523-8989. Even better, go online and make your pledge with a credit card or debit card at WRFG.org. And we'll be back to talk more about money some other time, but right now we're going to get to our labor headlines and our This Week in Labor History, and then we're going to talk to our guests who are in the studio. So here we go, labor headlines for March 23rd, 2015. In response to the global capitalist crisis, which has brought severe unemployment and drastic cuts to social services such as education and health care around the world, yet another mass protest was held in Madrid, Spain on this just past Saturday under the slogan of Bread, Work, Homes, and Dignity. 9 separate marches from around the country converged in a central plaza in Madrid, bringing thousands of youth and students, workers, pensioners, farmers, artists, musicians, and others together to denounce the transfer of public wealth into the hands of a small number of bankers and industrialists. Unemployment figures in Spain are 23.7% nationally, with over 50% of those between 16 and 25 years of age without jobs. The next day, yesterday, Sunday, regional elections were held in Andalusia, one of the poorest areas of the country. The two establishment parties, both misnamed pro-capitalist parties, one is called the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party and the other the Popular Party, which have orchestrated the austerity measures and are ensnarled in corruption scandals, were being challenged by Podemos, an anti-austerity movement that recently has entered electoral politics. Although the Socialist Party retained its 47 seats in the 109-seat regional parliament, the Conservative People's Party, or Popular Party, went from 50 to 33, and Podemos picked up 15 seats, ensuring that the fight against austerity will be fought in the streets, but also in Andalusia's legislature. For national news, this past Saturday saw a march of thousands parade through the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida, celebrating 20 years of achievements by the Coalition of Immokalee Workers in winning higher pay and safe working conditions for those who pick tomatoes. Undocumented students from Georgia's own Freedom University singers sang civil rights and other movement songs for the enjoyment of the crowd. With colorful banners and signs, puppets, and elaborate floats, the largely immigrant workforce, their families, student, faith, and community supporters displayed the gains made by years of struggle with hundreds of marches, boycotts, petitions, picket lines, and more that succeeded in bringing 13 major buyers of Florida tomatoes into the Fair Food program. The event focused attention on the continued refusal of Publix groceries and Wendy's fast food to support worker rights and justice. The parade concluded with an exuberant concert in a park, which opened with members of the Student Farm Worker Alliance announcing the boycott of Wendy's for its anti-worker policies. For pictures, video, and commentary on the parade and concert, the website is www.ciw-online.org. And lastly, protests continue to take place at the Georgia legislature, with particular attention being placed on the bills affecting education, specifically the attempt to create a special program and separate program for so-called failing schools, totally under the control of the governor's hand-picked superintendent. While public money would maintain the schools, they could be privatized, their curriculum changed, their teachers and principals removed, all with no accountability to parents or the community. The failure of the elected officials to deal with issues important to women, such as domestic violence, reproductive health, discrimination on the job, and low wages. Right at this very moment, a number of women are disrupting the House session, dropping banners from the gallery. This was an action carried out by Moral Monday Georgia and a number of women's organizations, including the National Organization of Women. And that concludes our headlines for today. We'll move quickly into labor history this week.
Thanks, Diane. Two dates that are important events for Women's History Month both happened on the same day. On March 25, 1911, 146 workers died, most of them young Jewish and Italian immigrant women, at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory in New York City when the building in which they worked caught on fire. They were unable to escape because they had been locked in by their employer. One of the most important events in American labor history, the Triangle Fire inspired a movement for workplace safety, a crackdown on sweatshops, and helped spark important labor reforms, including new standards for lighting, ventilation, and sanitation, fire exit laws, and limiting the hours women and children could work. The lack of a union mattered a great deal, as workers had no representatives to improve their working conditions or enforce safety rules. Wanting maximum control over its workers, management ordered all doors out of the factory locked except for one. On March 25, 1911, just as the long workday was ending, a fire broke out on the 8th floor and quickly spread to the 9th and 10th floor. The factory offices were on the 10th. The owners escaped, getting to the roof and hopping to another building. No one told the 250 workers on the 9th floor that the building was on fire. They didn't know until it was too late. A few managed to escape on the elevator, some more on a fire escape, at least until it collapsed from the weight of so many people. But 146 did not escape. They rushed to the second door but found it locked. They burned to death or jumped from the windows as a last resort. Fire department ladders only stretched to the 6th floor. Firefighters stretched nets to catch the jumpers, but they couldn't handle the force of bodies falling from that height. It was all over in half an hour. The tragedy of the Triangle Fire finally drew public attention to the working conditions of the sweatshop workers. On April 5th, 350,000 New Yorkers came out to the union-organized funeral of 7 unidentified workers. As union leader Clara Lemlich said, if Triangle had been a union shop, there would not have been any locked doors, and the girls would have been on the street almost an hour before the fire started. 54 years later, on March 25th, 1965, civil rights worker Viola Gregg Liuzzo was murdered by the Ku Klux Klan as she shuttled marchers between Montgomery and Selma, Alabama. She and her husband, Anthony Liuzzo, who was a business agent of Teamsters Local 247 in Michigan, had always been a family with a purpose. They believed in racial equality, helping fellow union members in their struggle for economic justice or dignity on the job, and fighting discrimination in all its forms. Viola Liuzzo was an active member of her community and was a member of DRIVE, the Teamsters political and legislative arm. She was 39 and a mother of 5. Viola was born on April 11, 1925 in Pennsylvania. Her father was a mine worker, but lost his job when he lost his hand in an accident. The family moved several times, living in Tennessee and Georgia. Viola grew up in poverty, and it was during her formative years that she realized the unjustness of segregation, as she and her family in similar conditions of great poverty were still afforded social privilege denied to African Americans under the Jim Crow laws. Her family moved to Michigan in 1941, where her mother found work in a bomb factory and then at Ford Motor Company. Viola worked as a waitress, went back to school, and was active in local efforts on behalf of reform in education and economic justice. After Bloody Sunday on March 7, 1965, Dr. King called for any and all persons to come to Selma. On March 16th, after participating with her daughter and 250 Wayne State students in a Selma support march in Detroit, Liuzzo called her husband and told him there were too many people who just stand around talking, that she had to help, and that she was going to Selma for a week. When the march to Montgomery was over, Liuzzo met civil rights worker Leroy Moten, who had been using her car all day as an airport shuttle. The two of them drove 5 passengers back to Selma. When they were done, Viola volunteered to return Moten to Montgomery. On the way, Liuzzo stopped at a red light, and a car with 4 white men pulled up alongside her. They followed her when she tried to outrun them. They caught up with her car and opened fire. She was shot in the head and died. On May 3, 1965, the trial of her killers began. One of the men in the car was an FBI informant, and so was protected by the FBI. 3 others were indicted on a state charge of murder and a federal charge of civil rights violation. The all-white jury could not come to a decision, and a mistrial was declared. In the federal trial, the defendants were found guilty of conspiracy to violate the civil rights of Liuzzo and were sentenced to 10 years in prison. From 1979 to 1983, the Liuzzo children tried through legal action, unsuccessfully, to get the FBI to acknowledge complicity in the death of their mother. Dr. King said of Viola Liuzzo, "If physical death is the price some must pay to save us and our white brothers from eternal death of the spirit, then no sacrifice could be more redemptive."
Thank you so much, Paul. So we will move right into our guests who are here in the studio. We've been having a lot of fun with them. So who we have in the studio with us today is Neil Gottman, who is the business agent for IATSE Local 927. Next to him, for those of you who are watching on our live stream, is Kaz Walding. Kaz is one of the stagehands who helped organize a union. And next to her is Brian Hill.
Hola.
Hola. Also a stagehand with IATSE Local 927. So I'm thrilled you guys have been here. I tried for a number of weeks to get this interview, and I'm excited. You can explain first, maybe Neil, what does IATSE stand for, and what do y'all do?
We are the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. We're the ones backstage, behind the scenes, in theater, TV, film. We have in Atlanta 5 different locals. Our local represents the Stagehands. We work at the Fox and the Civic Center and do rock and roll venues. And we also do some corporate events.
Okay, so now, some people might say, wow, what a glamorous job is this. They get to see all the big stars. They get to see the shows for free. So, Cass and Brian, I want you to tell us the real story of your jobs. You know, I mean, on the one hand, I'm sure this is one of the reasons you kind of like doing what you do, but I think most people probably have no idea what you do, including me. So, Cass, what do you guys do?
Well, what we do is, well, I'm on a carps team, so I'm always there to build sets. I also do lighting as well, so we go ahead and get all the lighting put up, raise the truss up and everything. And it's great. It's a wonderful job to have. It's something I've always wanted to do since I was a little kid. It's extremely dangerous in many cases. You know, there's always, you know, danger from above and danger from the sides, and there's always the electrical hazards. But it's something that I really wouldn't, you know, trade for the world. It's hard work, but at the end of the day, I know I've done good work. But you know, it's been interesting working locally. It's kind of been a bit of a shock to go from really wanting to be a stagehand to realizing exactly what all of that entails. It's not everything I had initially expected. I was kind of hoping, you know, because you always think, oh, they always make so much money over there and they're setting up the shows and everything, and that's really not nearly the case. So it's a lot of hard work for a lot less pay than one would expect.
So Brian, tell us your story.
I've been a stagehand, I guess officially since January 2011. Started with Crew 1 in Nashville, and first show ever put together was the Lady Gaga Monster Ball tour when it came to Nashville, and that was a really awesome show to actually put together and work and whatnot, because as everybody knows, Lady Gaga is very elaborate and has her very elaborate setups and whatnot. And what I would describe it as something like Alice Cooper meets Michael Jackson as far as that show goes. But fast forward to 2013, I got word that the union was trying to organize Crew 1 and whatnot, and I at least went to a meeting to find out what they had to say. And then fast forward from that, you know, over the last summer, late summer, early fall, we had an election within LRB with the counting result of 116 to be represented by the IATSE versus 60 to stay with Crew 1, and you know, worked with the IATSE since the summer of 2013 on the referral list. Became a member because I'd worked so many events with them. It's like it just made sense for me to join and become a member and whatnot.
Okay, so I have another question. I was an auto worker, worked in an assembly plant, so a totally different experience. I had set hours, set shift, knew what I was going to do every day. So I'm guessing that there's intense pressure in, I don't know, however many days before a show happens. Just like work, 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 work. And then the show happens, and then you take it down, work, 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 work. And then what happens?
Well, we operate a hiring hall in the traditional sense of organized labor. So what we do is I put out calls for people. We set them up with work. We get them, and it's a lot of short-term engagements. The bulk of what we do, 2, 3, 5 days a week, and then they're off for a couple days, and then they go to the next thing. Ours is much more like a building trade, and less like the traditional union shops that you came from.
Okay. All right, so how this all came to my attention was I saw an article in the newspaper that there was, or maybe I got a Facebook, I got something that told me about a picket line that you all were having a month or so ago in relation to this Crew 1. And so I want somebody to explain the difference between these entities, the booking agent, the, you know, who all these folks are, and who's the culprit here for the low wages and bad working conditions.
The initial culprit is Crew 1. Crew 1 started 1992. They came in, they are a labor provider. They have been paying $8 to $12 an hour for 20 years for stagehands.
Oh my gosh.
They're paying their climbing riggers $25 an hour. They're charging anywhere between $16 to $35 an hour for those people, plus 30%. Yet they're treating the workers like independent contractors. So what we did was we realized there was a problem, and we went to the workers and tried to get them to organize, because that was the only way that they were going to stop this wage theft, essentially.
Okay, so let me still get this straight. All right, so when we read in the newspaper some big concert is coming, it's happening, and I'll just say someplace, Fox Theater, wherever, and people go and buy tickets, who does that money go to?
Live Nation.
Okay.
More often than not, it goes to Live Nation.
Okay, so Live Nation is the one that books all these big shows. That
Live
they
Nation is the promoter.
subcontract to this Crew One outfit.
Yes.
And then Crew One goes out and tries to get workers to work for $8 to $12 an hour.
Yep.
All right, and so now you're saying that because they have voted to join a union, now IATSE 927 is trying to get Crew One to abide by certain conditions. Is that correct?
We're trying to get them to bargain. We're trying to get them to come to the table and bargain.
All right, so does Crew One, any place in the United States, have a union contract, or will you be the first?
We will be the first.
Oh, so this really is a big struggle.
Yes.
Yes.
Historic in a way.
Historic in two ways, actually. Historic in our business because we organized a labor provider as opposed to a venue. Historic in the labor movement because we were able to take a whole bunch of workers who were misclassified as independent contractors and prove that for the purposes of the National Labor Relations Act that these workers are actually employees.
Okay, now we've had other workers here who have been misclassified, and just to make sure our listeners understand, when you're considered an independent contractor, that means you are not eligible for unemployment.
No,
Exactly.
You are not eligible for workers' comp.
that's correct.
You have to pay your own Social Security.
That is correct.
You have no pension, no health insurance, no vacation time.
Nothing.
Nothing. I mean, you just get paid a straight wage, and then when it comes to tax time, you know, for those that were smart enough to put back, you had not only to put back for your own portion of the taxes, but also the company's portion of the taxes.
Yes.
Okay, Paul, I know you got a question.
Okay. So going into negotiations, what are the main demands that you have?
If they were to come to the table, what we would be asking for would be obviously recognition as employees, better wages, working conditions, which include time and a half after 8 hours, probably double time after 14 hours, recognized minimums, recognized break times, a lot of the things that the workers currently are not getting, but workers in our industry normally get.
Is there a southern difference here in terms of how this work is done compared to New York, Boston, let's say?
The fact that it's been allowed to happen here for so long is possibly, it's a right to work problem. It's in a lot of ways, it's a lack of organization problem, and it is a unions are bad problem. People were convinced unions were bad, so instead of people banding together, we ended up with a race to the bottom.
All right, so I want to ask both of you who are stagehands.
Yes, ma'am.
If this effort to get a contract with Crew One was successful, just from your own personal standpoint, what would that mean to you? And I'll start with you, Cass.
I mean, for me, that would be, I'd actually be able to make house payments. I could pay my bills on time. I wouldn't be owing every single time that I go to do taxes. That would be, you know, better food on the table for my daughter and for my husband and myself. It would just be better experience of life in general. You know, it would really improve a lot of the quality of life for me. Having benefits too would be absolutely huge. You know, my husband, you know, lost his job a couple of months ago. So right now I'm the primary breadwinner in the household. And, you know, with a kid and everything and a house payment, it's not easy, especially on the stagehand's wages. So that would mean actually being able to continue forward.
Mm-hmm. Brian?
I mean, for me, it's just in knowing the fact that pretty much like what I've noticed in any, you know, studying labor history and whatnot, you know, where a certain industry was once unionized and then became ununionized, if that's the correct term, you know, and it pretty much got watered down and just pretty much high turnover rates and whatnot. I'd be glad to see, you know, that these jobs would once again become actual careers instead of what, you know, what could be considered now zombie work. just to, give the listeners a, perspective, working with like Crew One and other non-union companies, for the most part, it's pretty much hop on the train and hold on for as long as you can. And you better hope you learn something along the way. Whereas, since I've joined 927, and also working on the referral list before that, if I have an interest in a certain department or whatnot, they'll give me the tools and the people to train me in that department. And therefore, learning
Increasing your skills.
Exactly, learning new skills, and also making myself more of a valuable employee.
And not only that, I think one of the big issues, I've seen these incredible stage sets. You have pyrotechnics, you've got unbelievable cameras on all over, things moving, and lights flashing and all the rest. And it strikes me that I ask this, that you all know people who've been hurt really seriously on the job?
More times than we like to admit.
Yes,
Yeah.
quite often.
All right, well, I am so happy we've had a chance to have this opportunity to have you on, and I hope you get to come back again and tell us about the success of getting Crew One to the table. But for our listeners who are interested in more information about how they can support this effort, what is happening, I know you wanted to say real fast, Neil, about this picketing or this
we are
informational
bannering.
picketing.
Yeah, we are bannering the Live Nation performances at Phillips Arena this week. So Ariana Grande and Fleetwood Mac, we will be out in front of the arena with more information about what we're doing. There's also a website, poorperformanceatl.com, which explains the positions. There's also a Crew One an IA Crew One Facebook page that you can go to find more information. There were articles in the Washington Post, in the Chicago Tribune, in Our Times, and in Creative Loafing, and you can search those through using Crew One or IATSE as your keywords, and you can find more information.
Well, I want to thank you again for coming in, and I want to congratulate you on taking this big step forward for winning worker rights
Thank you.
on
Thank you.
Stagehands, and I hope it goes from Atlanta to everywhere else. And so we'll say goodbye to Brian, Kaz, and Neil, and we're going to move into we have some promotional announcements about WRFG that we want to play, and then Mandy is on the line, and we're going to get to her in just a minute, so hang on, Mandy. Oh, Mardie. So I hope you all enjoyed that interview with our three members of IATSE, the Stagehands local here in Atlanta, who are making history, actually, if they are successful in winning a contract with Crew One. And now on the line with us, we have Mardie Hill. Hi, Mardie.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Well, we just saw each other shortly. I want to give you a big introduction. Mardie is a home health care worker. She was one of the organizers of this really incredible, fantastic Southern Workers Conference that took place this past Saturday. Here in Atlanta, some 500 low-wage workers from just about every southern state, coming from Missouri and Texas and Florida, up to Virginia, all around here in Atlanta, came together to talk about this Fight for 15 and the next big action day, which is April 15th. And Mardie, I don't know why I want to keep calling you Mandy, but Mardie was one of the key organizers. She lives here in Atlanta, and she is a home health care worker. Welcome to the airwaves of WRFG.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. I imagine you were pretty tuckered out on Sunday, and so I'm glad that you've got the energy to come on the show today. All right, let's start. We've had many of the fast food and low-wage workers on this program to discuss this fight. Essentially, $7.25, which is the standard minimum wage now, is just impossible for any person to live on, whether they're single, and certainly if they have a family. And this Fight for 15, which has been just a couple years in the making, has, in my opinion, just transformed the labor movement here in the United States. So, Mardie, if you wouldn't mind first telling our listeners a little bit about what happened on Saturday, and then we'll go a little bit more into the Fight for 15 on the April 15th.
Great. On Saturday, as a part of the organizing committee, we were so excited to be down at Ebenezer because we could reflect back during the time where we had a group of Mississippi, which they had went on strike, and they were the original workforce, and they were there delivering the speech, and they were saying that it was like 50 years ago they were making $1.95, and as I was listening, and I thought, my goodness, wages is not too much above that. And so we had a forum with just different people in the fast food area, the healthcare field, steel workers, just low-wage workers that is finding it so hard when you go to work every day to work, but are not enough to feed your family. So in this meeting, they were just expressing that now is the time. We must do something about it. Just the stressfulness of it. How you leave home, you leave your family, and you don't know whether you'll have lights or gas or grocery when you get back, and you're just trying to do the right thing.
So, Marty, one of the things that impressed me so much while I was there, of course, was the diversity of the workforce. You know, there were Walmart workers from Louisiana and fast food workers literally from every state, Texas and North Carolina and Virginia, and just on and on. Home health care workers, daycare workers from Raleigh. I mean, it just was everybody who, if you actually look at the workforce now, I don't know the statistics, I'm just guessing that, you know, the vast majority of people are sinking in wages and benefits, and more of the population is in the same boat that people who just make minimum wage or very little above it. So I just feel as though you are the approaching storm that's really going to shake things up in this country and perhaps lead us onto a brighter future. One of the things I also saw was that every speaker was a low-wage worker. So there wasn't anybody but you speaking for you.
Exactly. And I think that's what it's going to take for people to understand these are your neighbors, these are your family and friends that are faced in these situations, because sometimes if you're not part of it, you may not hear about it. But when you look at the face that this is my caregiver that is caring for my mother at night, this is the daycare worker who's taking care of my children, this is the fast food worker where I go often and I'm eating, but these people are not making enough money. So we want the world to hear that it's just not enough. You cannot survive on $7.25. It can't pay your bills. So that's the message that you want to get across. And there were even college students, because they're coming concerned. They're doing the right thing, going to college, and they're going to be faced with student loans, and they're saying, wait a minute, we're working at fast food places right now. So when I get my degree, well, I have to at least get out and get a decent job. They're concerned. So you're right. The crowd was a mixture.
One of the other things, I think there was a whole bus of people who came from the St. Louis Ferguson area. And I think the young man's name was Carlos Robinson. I think I've got that right. He worked at Burger King, and I thought when he spoke, he was talking about the connection really between the resistance that was seen in the streets of Ferguson to the killing of Michael Brown, and how that same group of youth and adults were mired in poverty as a result of the kind of low wages that Burger King and McDonald's and the retail giants and so many others, parts companies, have now really forced on the working class in this country. And that it was meshed together, that one was just a part of the other.
It is. Now, the one problem is just merging together is how I saw it. I mean, when I heard him speak, it brought tears to my eyes. Still, to believe that you're in a community that is faced with an issue, that is dealing with it, and you're dealing with your own issue, trying to feed your family. The wages in this fight for 15 is just it's a big thing. It's just it's massing a lot.
Can I ask you another question? I mean, one of the things that it gets probably mentioned a lot in this campaign, and the successes that have been won were also mentioned at your conference, that without this Fight for 15 that started with fast food workers in New York and spread now to literally hundreds of cities, not just in the United States, but actually around the world, is a reflection as well of the fight for a union. And I don't know that it always gets as clear to people that this struggle by workers isn't just for a minimum wage, I mean an increase in the minimum wage, but is for real respect on the job, which collective bargaining brings. Could you talk about that a little?
Right. I feel that it's like it's for 15 in a union. Because sometimes when you have a union representing you, I don't think our wages would have been this low for this long. So we need a mouthpiece to make sure and to continue that this struggle will not happen again. I mean, it should not. Not in 2015 that you have people working for solo wages when our country have money. So that's the thing with having the union support. You have some representation. You have care workers that are working 55 hours a week and getting straight pay. That shouldn't happen instead of overtime. Mm-hmm. You have a feel that people are not understanding. They feel like our job don't matter. That's how we feel as workers.
Mardie, could you say a little more about how, as part of the community, the people that you serve as a home care worker really have an interest in this fight too? Because I know, talking to friends in the disability community, that they are tired of seeing the turnover that happens as a result of people not being able to have a stable job with good pay and benefits. So this movement can actually include and expand with the people that you serve. Is that right?
That's right, and that's a good point. That's something that I should have tapped on. For me, sometimes we're faced with clients and they're for long term. Some clients may have dementia or illnesses, and if you are a caregiver, they become close to you. And a lot of times you have people leaving the field because they cannot stay for the term of that contract because it's not enough. And when opportunity comes, they have to take it. But what about that client? If that person or that caregiver was getting paid a decent wage, they wouldn't have to work, the two jobs, or they could make the fulfillment of the contract. Because in being a caregiver, you've got to keep in mind there's relationship established, and you want quality work as well. So with having a decent wage, it will stabilize that field, and it will also help the senior care who, today I saw Mardie, maybe next day I see Mary. It should be consistent. I know if it was my mother, I don't want 2 and 3 people with her. I would want a consistent person.
I want to agree with that. There are 2 of us in this studio who have elderly mothers who get some assistance. And I feel, we're pretty fortunate that we have some confidence in the folks that are coming. But it is really true that the kind of familiarity that when someone comes into your home, that you feel totally comfortable about them, you feel comfortable with them giving you a bath, you feel comfortable with them cooking your food, etc. And when it's a changing scene, that is it's a quality of life issue for that person that you're caring for. So very clearly, having a stable workforce, a workforce that is able to both be professional and to be compassionate, and know your loved one is important to everybody. So that's why everybody should be supporting home health care workers getting a decent pay.
Yes, they should. You know, because that's what brought me into business. When my own mother and brother came down with cancer, my concern, who would care for them the way that I would? Who would give them the love when they make mistakes? So it's a lot to what we do. We're their friends, we hear their cries, we take care of them, and sometimes we all they see.
So, Mardie, would you talk a little bit more now? So the conference was, as I said, it was an all-day kind of event that took place at Ebenezer Baptist Church. Again, people from all over, different ages, young and old, all different kinds of folks. And it was, I have to admit, I was really thrilled as well to meet some of the three Memphis sanitation workers whose historic struggle and the phrase, "I am a man," really resonated at the time of Jim Crow segregation and the incredible discrimination and all of it. And I found that your chant, "I believe that we will win," to be sort of reflective of that. I want you to talk a little bit about why and how it is that fast food workers chant and use, "I believe that we will win," all the time.
Because it's like you're being restored as a human being. You kind of look back for me at Martin Luther King said he had a dream. Well, for us as caregivers and fast food workers, I believe that we will win. It's saying that we're not stopping, we're not turning around, because we believe it can get done. And that's from pain and frustration and just saying, we have to ride. I just wanted to also think about, when we're talking about the Fight for 15, our main purpose, on April 15, it will be a day that we gather together it'll be a day that the largest low-wage mobilization in the United States history. People from everywhere will be here that day. And we're just going to continue up until we get hurt.
Could you say to our listeners how they can get more involved and become part of this campaign? And I'm curious in terms of home care workers in particular, how you find each other.
Well, we're on Facebook. We walk up to each other. We tell a friend. That's all we say. Tell a friend. And a friend is going to tell someone else. Tell my story. Let someone hear my cry. How you all can be of help, come out and support on April 15th. See our dream. Help us make it a reality. On April 15th, you can go to april15.org, and it will tell you all the information you need about us, because we need the support of family, friends, professional. We need all of y'all support, because we're helping everyone that is making low wages. It can't go on anymore. So on that April 15th, that's the voice of every low-wage person out here. It's going to be a mobilization on that day.
So, Marty, one of the groups of people that was at the event that some folks might not think about is adjuncts at universities and colleges. And this is a whole nother field of people, in this case, some of whom have PhDs and higher degrees, a lot of student debt. And then it's this trend that is happening at universities and colleges all across the country, including here in Georgia, where instead of paying, salaries, in light of the amount of training and education people have, more and more universities get graduate students or people who are have just finished their degree and pay them so little that they actually sometimes are making less than minimum wage.
Right. I mean, we had a teacher that was there on Saturday as he spoke, and you think he spent his time, he went to school, and to say that he's in fear because you don't know the next day or the next week by not able to have a steady income or the income still not the same. We had a lot of college students that were there that is doing the right thing. You say build America's dream. Well, these students are in college. And even now they're afraid because they have that high student loan debt. And they say, what about the job? Will there be enough money to pay back this big debt? So, yes, we need to get this message out there.
I just want to let our listeners know that next week we, in fact, will have some of the local folks here in Atlanta who are organizing among the adjuncts at colleges and universities, and you'll get a chance to hear exactly how this works because like many of these other workers, they actually don't have any kind of stability in their job. One semester they could have 1, 2, 3 classes, the next semester no classes or 1 class, and so they have no idea what kind of money is coming in, and the same sort of situations of so many low-wage workers, fast food workers who never have a set shift, never have set hours, Walmart workers who never know how many hours they're going to work a week or which days. It makes it impossible for workers to have any kind of stable home life, especially if you have children. Exactly.
But I am glad for this time, and, we really appreciate the radio time because the more people hear, the more people are going to support because it is a valid situation that's going on there. Still, again and again, the chant rings in my ears. I believe that we can win.
Marty, I wanted to ask you, I think you were the one at the event on Saturday that was talking about obviously how hard it would be for home care health workers to actually, leave their job, leave their client. And I think you talked about something that you were going to do with the person you take care of. So if you wouldn't mind sharing.
This is to all the healthcare workers out there. We're going to have to, for those that cannot make it, make our own type of strike for April 15th. And here's how we can do it. We're not asking if your client don't mind and they want to take a selfie with you, that'll be perfect. If it's not possible, that's okay. If you would take just 15 minutes, go outside, take a selfie with your sign and saying that you support April 15th. We're going to use the media, and we're going to Instagrams like the young people do, Facebook, Twitter, and we're letting them know, still again, how many people are in support of what we do. And that's how more healthcare workers can get out there to say, I'm with you. We hear you.
That's a great idea. Marty, were you in the Grady McDonald's when that worker jumped over the counter?
I was there.
Tell people about this.
Well, it was a sign of frustration for him. He himself said he had did 3 years of college and has been working there a year or so, but was not making the kind of money. he believed exactly in what the struggle was. And to see that happen, it was like,
I know. I should let folks know. So after the conference was over, the folks all marched down Auburn Avenue and then marched to the McDonald's right there at Grady Hospital. And, you know, signs, banners, bullhorns. And people just went into the McDonald's. It was like, packed the McDonald's. And then a few minutes later, or maybe a little later, out they come, and along comes this man.
I would see, even the workers are frustrated. They're frustrated. They're tired because they want to be treated fairly and paid fairly. That's all.
Well, I just thought it was the absolute perfect end to a terrific day, because the whole day, all of it was really to make sure that everybody who was at this conference that took place at Ebenezer Baptist went back to their home state, to their home city, and really, really brought the message of this fight for 15 and a union. And then for that to happen at the end of the march, when we went into the McDonald's, and a worker responded on the spot to the call, and out he came in his uniform.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And it lets you know that 15 in the union.
Listening to you this afternoon, I'm feeling like this is the civil rights and human rights movement of today. Do you have that feeling that this is a time, a moment in history that you're a part of?
Yes, it does feel like history, but I also see people are uniting together. It's not a color issue, it's a low-wage issue. And there are people of every age, of every color, of every education level that is concerned. And that's what the people should see. And we're working as one, all for the same common goal.
So, Mardie, I want to, again, it was so great meeting you, and for you to be on the program again today. And I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank you for the role not that you did in cooperation and in collaboration with all those other low-wage workers and putting that great program together on Saturday. You really did a fine job. And I think it's one of the things that I personally have experienced, being able to do this show now for 4.5 years, is that I have always had total confidence in the ability of the working class to figure out solutions and to forge a better path forward. And every time I meet someone like you and the workers at that conference, I just double down on that feeling. I just know, just like what you said, I know that we can win.
Yes, and you brought a smile to my face when I saw you Saturday. So again, I say thank you, and I believe that we can win. I believe that we will win.
All right, so folks, again, this is April 15th. Big action here in Atlanta. You can go to april15.org for information. It's all over Facebook and the internet. Fight for 15, pictures, videos, all posters, just all kinds of information. And so we here at WRFG and the Labor Forum both not just following this story, we are participating in it. And we want to thank you, Mardie Hill, with the Fight for 15. I did it again, didn't I? Mardie Hill. Mardie, what is it short for? Maybe that'll help me.
No, that's the real name.
Oh, M-A-R-D-I-E is your name? Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right, so Mardie Hill with the Fight for 15, home health care worker and leader extraordinaire. Thank you for being on the Labor Forum.
Thank you so much, and y'all have a great evening.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
That's our show for today, and as I said, next week we will have the adjunct workers in. We're going to continue to talk about low-wage worker organizing. This is Diane Mathewitz and Paul McLennan saying goodbye for now, and we want to thank Ozzy Ibrahimi, our videographer, and of course Christopher, who's behind the controls at the board. Bye-bye.